Good afternoon, and thank you for logging into the sixth and the last webinar of 2021, hosted by the Press Institute of India and UNICEF. I'm Sanjay Pinto. As parents, we are all so concerned about infectious diseases, especially COVID today, and rightly so. But what about non-communicable diseases like type 2 diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, and even cancer, all of which can be caused by obesity and wrong dietary choices? Ladies and gentlemen, a recent study revealed that India has the second highest number of obese children after China, pegged at 14.4 million overweight kids. Let me say that again, 14.4 million overweight kids. A chubby child is not necessarily a healthy child. And being overweight far beyond an acceptable body mass index does not mean excess nutrition either. Because a thin youngster can have high cholesterol and an overweight person can be anemic. That's the paradox. Junk food that is usually a convenient and hurried breakfast or snacks available in most school canteens is the biggest culprit. To address an audience predominantly comprising parents and children, we've lined up a panel of experts. Dr. Vaishnavi Chandramohan, pediatrician, Dr. Kausalya Nathan, lifestyle management consultant, Sharmila Ribeiro, author and healthy food advocate, Simran Oberoi, founder of something very uniquely named Oven the Full, Lata Chandramouli, parent, and her son Vedant Krishna, student of PSPP, who has never touched junk food in his life. Now, Vedant, I want to come to you first. Is it true? I mean, you seem to be too good to be true. Is it true that you have never touched a cream biscuit or chocolate in your life? What do you usually have for snacks? Vedant, I'm very curious.
Yes, well, my mom always gives me the best of foods. She provides alternatives to different foods. Say, instead of a burger, she'd make a healthy vegetable sandwich for me. She gives me the yummiest of fruit, and she really has helped me.
What else does she give you? Vegetable sandwiches, fruits, what else? Because after a point, it'll become monotonous, right?
Vegetable sandwiches, fruits, she always makes different things. Every day I have a different lunch.
Can you give us a few examples, 4 examples?
Yes, even today in the morning I had a kanji. Kanji is like one of the only things I have common. Other than that, for lunch I have many different things. My mom, yesterday I got rice from my grandmother because my mom had to go out. And today my mom made a delicious skin.
Okay. So you're happy with the food that you're being served. It doesn't look like you're making a sacrifice. You're very happy with what you're getting.
No, it's actually just delicious. The food
Delicious.
is
Okay, I think it's time we visited Lata maybe once the situation comes under control. Lata, you seem to be a wonder mom in that sense. How did you inculcate this incredible dietary discipline in your 10-year-old son, who's going to be 11, I guess, in a few months? And how time-consuming has this been for you as a working professional? Because I know you're an entrepreneur, you run this outfit called Just Light. Balancing the two, how time-consuming is it to go through the motions here?
Time-consuming, yes, because it's much easier to pack a snack with a biscuit or a chocolate or anything that's readily available. So to be preparing even the simplest of the thing is definitely more time-consuming than just 2 biscuits. That is there. But actually, I'm no wonder mom. That's the truth. What I realized was we never give the kids a chance. I hope all of you understand Tamil here. They always used to say, when my son was born, the only target that I had in mind was till he learns to pick up food on his own, I will give him the best of the food. That's all my target was. I never targeted 11 years or 12 years. Till he learns to pick up food of his own, I'll give him good food. But I have always had people around me saying, idella vandu ottu varadhu. Means practically it's not possible. kids will only love chocolates and biscuits. Actually, kids doesn't know what a chocolate or a biscuit or a junk or a good eating is. The only thing that I always tell others when they ask me this question is this: we need to try. Even we shouldn't give up even before we try. Where we think like it's not possible. It's practically not possible. That's what I kept hearing from everyone and anyone around me. So I feel like it might work, it might not work, but nevertheless, we should try.
That's a good point that you've raised, because I remember my wife Vidya, when our twin children were born, an expert told us that, sugar, salt, and fat are drugs that we introduce our children to. Dr. Vaishnavi, do you agree with this? What about, how harmful are processed foods, like, for instance, biscuits, cookies that you get off the shelf in departmental stores, chocolates? Now, of course, there's a new fad of healthy eating, things that multi-grain cookies, but these all have preservatives. So, from a practical standpoint, vis-a-vis a health requirement, do you think snacks that are available off the shelf are harmful? How harmful are they?
Hi, Sanjay. Thank you so much for having me here. I am passionate about, educating parents about healthy eating and good food, and also I'm very happy to be part of
you this because when you last came home, you brought a whole lot of date laddus and all that, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. So, as you rightly said, most of the packaged foods have a lot of preservatives. Okay. So even if they are touted as multigrain or healthy food or millet based, etc., if it is packaged and if it's going to be stored for a long time, unless it mentions that kindly eat before a couple of days, so it is usually full of preservatives, artificial things, GMOs, etc. So nothing like homemade food. And as Mrs. Lata has said, a lot of healthy snacks prepared at home will definitely give the child a better sense of good food, balance. And it's very important. The practical tip that I give parents when they complain about junk food is do not stock food. So do not stock junk food or have a secret stash somewhere which the kid has no idea about. Once a week, you can give it to them, because once a kid knows it's there, it's almost impossible to stop them, especially this pandemic time when they.
Actually, what you're saying is that best before label. Usually food that is, let's say, best for 3 days. But what if most of the snacks we find conventionally in the market are, the expiry date is 6 months or 1 year hence. So you're saying those items should be. There should be a strict no-no for those items, right? That's what you're saying?
It's not a strict no-no. You can occasionally have treats. After all, it's childhood and things. But I would say don't stock it and keep it as the daily snack that the child gets. It should not be a regular thing. It should be a treat. A treat should actually
be a one-off thing, okay. A one-off kind of thing.
Exactly.
Let me bring in Dr. Kausalya here. Dr. Kausalya, how many calories does an active child in the 8 to 17 age group require? And can you give us a rough breakup of how this nutrition in the form of carbohydrates, protein, calcium, vitamins, and minerals can be part of the plate in different meals? If you can just break it up for us so that the mothers, parents who are watching, I won't say just mothers, fathers as well, will know how to actually, arrange a plate for a child.
Sure. Good. Hi, Sanjay. Good to be with you on the show. I think it's been a while. It's always a pleasure. And I thank
you, Kausalya,
and you for this opportunity to be with all of you this afternoon. Thank you so much for the question, Sanjay. I think it's a very valid question. See, right now, the calories part in the last 2 years, because of this lockdown, I think we've been reduced by 10% because children are indoor,
Yes.
So it cannot be the same kind of calories which the children were having couple of years before this COVID set in.
I have a doubt there, Kausalya. See, yes, minimal activity, no outdoor activity really, unless a child is of a bigger class and they open schools for them. But there is also, a calorie requirement for sitting in front of a computer. That burns energy. I'm told even to sleep well, one needs energy. So even your meal
Absolutely.
At night, a lot of people say have your supper at 6 o'clock in the evening and then you feel hungry later on, and some people are not able to get sleep. So.
True.
Given the current situation, what are the calorie requirements in terms of the different forms of, carbs, proteins and all that?
Yeah. So I think right now, the whole thing is now shifted to nutrients more than calories, Sanjay. That's the fact now, because every food has calorie that we all know, except water. Like you take any food, it can be a piece of bread or a oatmeal or a cookie or, all of it has its own calorie, even an apple. But right now, I think the more focus is towards nutrients, to pack them with nutrients, the right kind of, balance with complex carbohydrate and, with the correct amount of protein and good source of protein and fat, Then again, of course, the minerals, which plays an important role in having a balanced nutrition for children. But as you rightly asked about splitting the whole thing into a plate, like, how to kind of, I think 2016, I think the best thing which happened when Mrs. Michelle Obama, I think she converted the pyramid into a plate concept, that's a brilliant thing, which probably, I think last happened, I would say, as a nutritionist point of view during the Obama days, where I think the dividing the plate into three, that can be followed even in Indian scenario, because we all have a regular plate and we do have beautifully classified plates. It was there even ever since our growing up days. We used to actually look forward to such kind of divided plates where we don't want food to be mixed from one kind of, one kutu to be mixed with one, gravy or a curry or something. So I think that's the whole idea of dividing, I think, into three, where 50% of the plate can be filled with complex carbohydrate. That means fruits, unpolished rice, white rice can be replaced with unpolished rice or brown rice. And of course, please stick to the sambar or the rasam or the kutu or the indigenous foods. I somehow feel, I think that's missing out these days, and it's very important. And with COVID, Sanjay, I also observe, the kitchen is the most active part, and, people have been more experimental with it, coming out with, a lot of not so good kind of facts, because
you're saying not polished rice. Normally, the only polished rice goes down. But you're saying unpolished rice, those thick fat grains. How many people are willing to?
They're not too thick actually, but now you get the unpolished rice, which is actually half broken. It's very nice. And you can soak it overnight. The best way to cook is it takes little time, I agree. I think the best way to do it is to soak it overnight, and the next morning in a pressure cooker, 3 whistles or something, it gets done, and it's very tasty. The myth about, white rice is only the color concept. It's nothing else. The color is the only factor. Otherwise,
it's in the mind, you're saying.
Yeah, I think the taste of it is much nicer, and you feel the texture of the food when it comes to the brown rice,
Coming back to the compartmentalization of, so you're saying a little bit of rice.
And then, of course, the vitamins when it comes from the vegetables, any 1 or 2 sources of vegetable. It can be as simple as cut carrots or cucumbers or, boiled chana, sprouts or, some mixed vegetables, some colors.
Not potatoes, not yam, or not.
No, you can. I feel don't ignore or don't leave out anything. Just give children all which comes from nature. Only man processes it. Nature doesn't process it. So when it comes from nature, I think that's the best thing, and we don't have to worry about it. You can have sweet potato, you can have potatoes, steamed potatoes, or it can be shallow fried, So all that can be, all in food is about balance, I think it's about the balancing concept of food. It's nothing like, extremely, avoiding or completely removing potato out of the diet or, any other vegetable out of the diet. It's about incorporating it in the right proportion, depending on the child's kind of, requirements. Some children, they have their own, preferences. Some of them do have health issue for which, they follow some form of a dietary modification and stuff. So I think basically when you divide the plate, 50% should be of complex carbohydrate as much as possible. And of course, I think around the remaining 20% to 25% can be about protein. Protein can be from sprouts, can be from paneer, can be, form of chicken or eggs. Fish is again an excellent source of protein to give for children, especially. It has a good amount of omega-3 in it. And of course, the remaining portion can be a form of combination of fat with some, kind of a kutu or, some form of a combination of what they like to have. It can even be potato chips, it doesn't matter. So I think it's about the combination where it's
that's a relative term, right? I mean, 50% depending on the size of the plate. How big should the plate be?
That's true.
Cannot be like that bakasura kind of a thing that you find Facebook, you find all those videos, right? The people hogging gluttony is going viral on Facebook.
True.
Not the thali plate. You're talking smaller plates for children.
Yeah, smaller plate. I think it's a medium-sized plate which can be classified. And see, top it all, I think children, when you kind of condition them from beginning about a particular plate size, they get used to it. They would not like to have a change in the preferences. You would have noticed this with your twins, Sanjay, where there is a change, I think they immediately resist. So they get used to their kind of plate.
Yeah, but I'm hardly the example for them when it comes to eating. Maybe Vidya is. I want to bring in, hold that thought, Kausila. I want to bring in Sharmila here, Sharmila Ribeiro.
Sure.
Sharmila, your book, I got your book from our pediatrician's clinic, Dr. Benny Benjamin. And your book was a godsend to many parents, I would say. So would you mind sharing a few recipes from your book or outside for two things: a quick and healthy breakfast and a snack that is filling but light? I mean, that's quite a challenge I'm throwing at you. A quick and healthy breakfast and a snack that is filling but light. A few recipes.
Yeah, so here's my book, Sanjay. It's called Everyday Love, A Mother's Guide to Healthy Cooking for Kids. And I was inspired actually because I had 3 boys, and I would, happy to admit in one sense that I was feeding them junk food. But the realization dawned kind of when my 3rd child was falling sick all the time that, he wasn't eating a healthy diet filled with fruits and vegetables in particular. So the genesis of my book became, how do you feed kids fruits and vegetables in a kid-friendly, happy, and, for the whole family. And so for some of the favorite snack that I make all the time, even now as though they're grown up, and I have half in the freezer and half in the fridge, is hummus. Hummus is, chana chickpea, which is boiled. It uses natural sesame seeds, so good fats. It's protein, and you use lemon, olive oil, and herbs and lemon juice. And it's very simple to make. I've taught lots of kids to make it, in fact. And whenever my kids are hungry, they come home, they want a snack. I have hummus there to give them, and they can have it either with bits of toast or with vegetable sticks, or we put it in a sandwich. We layer it with, we use it as butter. In fact, in my book, I say hummus the new butter, because I feel it's a great spread and a fantastic snack for any time. So that's one of my top favorite snacks that I have year round in my fridge and freezer. A healthy hummus can also be part of a breakfast. But the other things I would do, which is kid friendly, is make muffins, like fruit-based muffins, using whole wheat, banana, or apple. I put nuts and seeds into it. And so they're low sugar. So either jaggery or very little sugar, but it's mainly fruit-based. And I make a tray of them at a time, and have that also as either, a school lunchbox, a healthy breakfast, because it's both, complex carbs as well as fruits, nuts, seeds, and very low on sugar and fat because natural sugars. So at the top of my mind, I think both for breakfast and healthy snacks. I mean, besides, of course, all our Indian food, which is great. Like when you're talking about, red rice, my motto is make half your grains whole, even if you cannot go the whole hog. So when I make idlis and dosas, I use half red rice and half white rice. So, and everything I do is literally, using that balance. And kids amazingly get used to it. Food preferences are learned. So if you feed them red rice, brown rice from a young age, they get used to it. In fact, I think the barrier is us. So
what about those who are already 9 or 10 or 11 who are watching the show, or parents, can they course correct at this stage? Any tips for them to course correct?
Absolutely. At any age, I think. I think the key thing with the exposure that kids have to so much of, good food and food channels and exposure is to make healthy food tasty. And that was kind of the point of my book, is when you can give tasty food, like Vedant says, his mother makes healthy food that's tasty. I've had a lot of parents saying, our kids would fight over your son's lunch boxes because I gave them home cooked food. And that's the key thing. I think I don't advocate any processed or bought food, because, when you cook at home, the ingredients you're using. And that is really key. As I like to tell people, it's companies, when we buy processed food, especially from the large multinational companies, we're giving them, it's their short-term profits at the long-term cost of our health and our kids' health.
Absolutely.
And to me,
absolutely.
I'm a huge advocate of, cutting the junk food, making at home, and first thing is, I think, get kids and everyone needs to read food labels, because that really tells you the story of what's in the food. And that to me is the first step of improving the nutrition for your child or yourself, is just to read the labels.
I think those labels also need to be in a bigger font size. They're almost like statutory warnings on a cigarette pack today. You have to use a magnifying glass sometimes to read them. I want to bring in Simran Oberoi here. I mean, Simran is somebody Vidya told me about. Simran has started this concept called Oven the Food. Simran, what prompted you to start this baking practice, as it were? I heard that sugar is completely off your kitchen.
Yeah. So thank you, Sanjay, and thank you, Vidya. So Wonderful actually initially started as a social enterprise, and then I sort of grew it into a Facebook community of healthy baking. So sugar has been off the charts in the sense that initially what prompted me was my child. So my son was 1.5 years, and I think I didn't think I found anything in the market that I wanted to feed him. So I started thinking, especially because kids at that age get exposed to things like bread or cookies and things like that. And I wanted to look at that segment first, because that's what usually attracts the children, and I realized that, I want him to become very comfortable with a very different kind of flavor. So I started, because of him, I started looking at alternative flours. I started looking at unrefined sugars, such as coconut sugar. So my primary, whenever I bake now, I bake only with coconut sugar, which has a lower glycemic index as compared to the others. And obviously with a range of flours. So that was the intent. And because I mean, like a lot of other working parents, I wanted to make sure that I had a healthy snack which was ready for me to give to him, whenever he wanted to look at something. The other thing was that I wanted to also break the myth that, snacking needs to be, sweet. So I see that usually at 4 or 5 o'clock, parents tend to give the kids biscuits, even if it's with unrefined sugars. My personal preference was to not give him something which was sweet. I wanted to change that idea that, snacking can be healthy and it can be non-biscuity, so I would give him crackers. I would give him, I think like, Sharmila just mentioned, so hummus, with beetroot and things like that, which I honestly felt was a better option from a snacking point of view. And if he needed to eat something sweet, fruits were always there. So
what about allergies, Simran? How do you counter allergies? Like some kids have nut allergy, especially in the West. It's a serious thing. Nut allergy, beetroot allergy, tubers. Those who are, who need gluten-free, baked items. How do you handle allergies?
So I think I'll answer that in two parts. The first part is that there's a lot of, so allergies are usually specific. So the nut allergies can be easily actually handled because we have a range of non-nut based flours, So if you're looking at regular alternative flours, you have your millets, you have your, whole wheat flours, which you get, from your local farmers, which ideally should be your first preference. The second is, you have a lot of plant-based flours. So like amaranth, like down south, we get a lot of amaranth flour, or buckwheat flour. So these are all free of nuts, and you can use, a lot of us who are doing healthy baking use them in our baked, whether it's breads, whether it's cakes, whether it's cookies. So those are very, a range of alternative flours are there. From a maybe a fruit or a snack point of view, like, so for example, if there's a tuber related allergy or a specific vegetable related allergy, then again, we have a lot of alternatives, for a lot of vegetables and fruits that children are not comfortable eating. The second part is, my daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes last year. And that sort of brought my focus entirely on understanding, one, of course, raising awareness that type 1 diabetes is not related to sugar. It's not related to sweeteners. That's one. The second is also brought focus on, how to understand the concept of the plate. So coming back to the concept that you're talking about, that's how our endocrinologist, our pediatric endocrinologist started training us. That, this is your plate, this is your child's plate, this is how you need to structure it. So basically the focus should be on understanding that, firstly, try and understand very clearly that we don't need to consume, unlimited number of carbohydrates just for the child to grow. That's a myth. Okay, a child doesn't need hundreds of carbohydrates just to grow. From that point of view, they need a balanced diet. They need to balance what kind of carbohydrates, where are they coming from. So like Dr. Kausalya mentioned, complex carbohydrates coming from vegetables, coming from unrefined unrefined grains. So things like that should become important in the plate. And in that started reflecting in my baking also, and I moved completely. So like I said, if I'm not baking with coconut sugar I don't even bake with jaggery any longer. I baked only, if I'm baking with an unrefined sugar, I bake with coconut sugar. Otherwise I look at safe plant-based sweeteners, because my daughter can't really eat even coconut sugar. So something like, say, plant-based stevia and things like that, if at all. But like I said, the exercise of focusing on non-sweet bakes has really helped. And I would encourage all parents to look at that. And I think at the beginning of this session is what you mentioned was a very, very important point, that we are the ones who are creating that taste. We are the ones who are creating that palate for our children. We are not, the kind of flavors we give them more of, that's the kind of preference they will start developing. You give them flavors.
That's well, but I want to bring in, I want to bring in Dr. Vaishnavi here. Dr. Vaishnavi, as a pediatrician, now, Simran made the point about allergies. Should our allergies only in the mind? Should they be treated, or should we just follow their allergic reaction? Let's say if somebody is allergic to the smell of yam, or to beetroot, or has gluten allergy, should that be addressed, or should we just steer clear of these items?
Right. So I think one will be aversion and the other is allergy, when you say like smell and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So things like aversion, it should be like slowly conditioned. So
how do you distinguish the two? The child says, I'm allergic to this. Yeah.
Allergy will be an actual thing where they have rash, or they have loose stool, or some hives, they develop itching, or you have like blood in the stool with milk protein allergy, etc. So if it's an aversion, then you have to slowly condition. So don't force the child, and especially don't force feed the child, because any force feeding will only cause vomiting. It will cause the child to develop aversion to any food or any feeding at all. The other is, if it's an allergy, then it's definitely to be treated with an allergy specialist. So again, there depends on the degree of allergy as well as what they're allergic to. So they will do trials where they will give small amounts, but it should be in the hospital. So they will introduce a child small amounts of milk, for example, and then they will see if there is any allergic reaction, and then you can restart the food. But if not, they will suggest alternatives that can be used until the child grows out of that allergy. And some of them may not, which is also fine. So, lifelong, they can just have alternatives to that.
Okay. Dr. Kausalya, I remember, many years ago, Consumer Association of India conducted a unique experiment in a school. I think it was PSPB. I remember covering that story on NETV then many years ago. They called it the Lunchbox Challenge. They put on tables on the stage several items: chocolates, chips, cookies, pastries, chana, vegetable salads, fruit salads, and all that, and asked the kids to go and help themselves, like a buffet spread. Most of the kids went for the chips and the chocolates, and predictably, especially one particular brand of chips. In fact, there was a famous actor who was a brand ambassador for that product, for that brand of chips. And guess what? He later on had a heart attack. Same actor who was thing. I mean, so, our canteens, our school canteens, is that the place where we should actually begin? Go to any school canteen. What do they get there? Burgers, samosas, dripping in oil. I even pointed out, Kausalya, in one of the hospitals where you were attached to earlier, not now, earlier. I pointed out and I took a photo and I sent it to the owner of the hospital in Mumbai, where just next to the interventional cardiologist room, you had a cafe coffee day. And what were they serving? Thick flavored coffee with thick milk and all that, and samosas dripping in oil. So, these are areas that we should really address. That. What do our school canteens stock? Dr. Kausalya?
Yeah, I think now, Sanjay, the chips concept is now changed. You get this beetroot chips. Carrot chips are available. Vegetables.
Fried, deep fried, right?
They are baked ones.
Baked, okay.
They are baked chips or air fried. You get the air fried, stuffs. So I think that's one alternative option to kind of, potato chips or these conventional or this commercially available stuff, which is, we know, it's not kind of healthy. And the second option is beautifully mentioned by, Ms. Sharmila and Ms. Oberoi is, I think it's time to work on the alternative type, which is much more healthier, much more tastier. Like coconut sugar is actually very flavorful than the white sugar, and you have
coconut and sugar. What about cholesterol?
No, I think for kids, I think it doesn't have any such kind of a translation, because the coconut sugar is the unprocessed form, and very low quantity of it is good enough for them to kind of have it in the, cookies, or, without wheat.
This is only for the kids, not for the big kids, only for the small kids.
Only for the kids. No, under 18, yeah.
Under 18, okay.
Under 18, yeah, it's
Okay.
good. And second thing is low portion of it. Like, you can actually, as beautifully mentioned, I think by Ms. Sharmila, I think we have to cut it down by 50%. See, like 50% you cut down, like, with the coconut, use alternative coconut sugar, and supplement with dry fruits like raisins and dates, because they also add sweetness to the cookies, So you can use the whole wheat flour.
So you're saying raisins and dates are much better than actual processed sugar, although they're very high in sugar.
Absolutely. And a very small quantity, because the cookie size is very small. You can't have more than 2. And each bite, if there is a sweetness which is felt, it can be like 1 raisin in a bite is good enough for the child to feel the sweetness.
I remember many years ago, I was telling you about, in the context of cholesterol, about eggs and all that, and you said that, you can remove the yolk, cut an egg into a boiled egg into half, remove the yolk and put some almonds or some paneer or something inside.
Yeah.
So
I think now it's time to fill it with the guacamole, with the, the avocado, with some chopped onions and stuff which children like. Or I think there is, Ms. Sharmila has got the hummus, which is concept into it. So such kind of alternatives, or peanut butter is there, almond butter is there. So I think these are the things which can actually replace the yolk of yellow and make it a little more colorful, creative.
See, that's one thing for us to talk about all these healthy dietary preferences. The other thing is the peer pressure that youngsters today face. For instance, this craze for size 0, somebody who's involved in wellness management, the craze for size 0 and that consequential anorexia. Then you have stress-induced binge eating that most youngsters are confronted with. What is your, for instance, you watch TV, we watch Netflix. Yesterday I was watching, my college mate's serial called Decouple. Vidya and I were watching till about 12:31 in the morning. And often when you watch that, you end up eating. You feel like eating something, because this thing, we go to watch a movie, no one really goes to Satyam Theatre to watch a movie without buying their cold coffee and their butter popcorn. Right? So similarly, your mind works and you want to go into the kitchen and pick up those cookies and all that. So Kausalya, what is your magic mantra for moderation?
I think moderation is about actually understanding and developing a positive relationship with food, and your fist and your eyes, your plate. These 3 are the instruments that we need to use. You don't need to measure calories. You don't have to you don't need to know how much an idli contains or what is the calorie of an idli, because it's practically is a failed theory. The child can never calculate how much an idli will be, dosa, or whatever the burger is going to be. So I think teach the children the moderation, and I think the best is to, from young age, it's really high time we actually establish a positive relationship with food or the plate or with diet. That's the main part. And again, when it comes to snacking, I think there are umpteen options right now. It's about awareness and introducing them the right way at the right time. And when the family does it, I think if there is no Coke, the parent doesn't drink Coke, there's no question of, taking the aerated drinks, the name. So I think there's no question of the child is going to demand it, until unless, of course, it might kind of, would like to try it on a birthday party, which is something is not in our control. And we should let them be, because too much of restriction also is going to backfire on us, like more like a size 0 or a 6-pack and stuff.
Yeah, we already know about, for instance, some of these colas, how they were, in fact, there were experiments that showed how they were very good at toilet cleaning agents.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kausalya, just one more question before I bring in Dr. Vaishnavi here. If children are active and healthy, should parents worry if they are thin? Society, I know, will never mind its business. I used to be taunted for being very skinny in school, much as it's difficult for you to believe now. I used to be very thinny in school and I used to be taunted. He is not eating, eat a banana, then sleep in the afternoon. Now my kids are often asked why they are slim. So what do you tell parents who are probably concerned about their children? I mean, we all talk about people who are overweight. What about those who are considered to be underweight? What is a correct healthy weight, minimum weight for a child of, let's say, 10 years?
See, if it's going to be 10 years, it starts with your birth weight. If the birth weight is 3 kilos, 3.5 or 2.5, so we need to calculate according to the birth weight, So usually they say by year 1, it should double, which most of them do, So if it's 2.5 by first year, I think it should be double. Most of them cross it even in 4th or the 5th month, and by and large, I think that's a good
So
tip.
after 10 years, let's say the birth weight is 3 kilos. How much should the child weigh at the age of 10?
Again, height also matters, Sanjay, but on an average.
Average height, yeah.
Yeah, so the height also is an average height, so maybe around 10 kilos, 10 to 12 kilos.
No, at the age of 10. I mean, at the age of 10 years.
Oh, at the age of 10 years. Okay, at the age of 10 years will be 20 to 25 kilos. So
20 to 25 is okay.
Height.
Okay, good. My children will be relieved to hear that. Dr. Vaishnavi, you wanted to say?
Yeah. So it's always a range, Sanjay. It's never a fixed thing. It depends a lot on the height of the child, on the parents, how they were when they were young. So a lot of parents do come in and ask about the weight, about the child looks skinny. Everybody is asking me if I feed the child, etc. So I always plot the weight and the height on the centile charts that are there in the file, and I show it to them. And I also tell them, please tell your mother-in-law, the grandmother, whoever is asking, show them this chart and tell them that my child is healthy. So, and it also matters how thin the parents were when they were a child, just like you were thin. So I tell them, if you are thin, then your child will also be thin. But since you're normal and healthy now, your child will also be normal and healthy. So that's one way of putting it and reassuring them, because it's like a lot of, this is also a form of body shaming, actually.
Absolutely.
Kids are all the time told, you're so skinny, what do you eat? Your mother only eats all your food. Your brother only eats all your food. The brother is on the heavier side. So it's a lot of bullying that goes.
We don't realize it. I remember there was a boy called Hastimal in my class, and we call him Hatimal, not realizing, how damaging it would have been to his psyche. What passes off as a joke. A person could grow up with that, as almost like a stigma. I want to ask you another question, Dr. Vaishnavi. We often demonize fat, like for instance, egg yolks. But we have read conflicting research findings. One that points to dietary cholesterol having nothing to do with blood cholesterol. So as a good practice, should children, since we're talking about catching them young, or, both Simran and Sharmila spoke about inculcating the right eating habits in children at a young age. So should children stay off egg yolk, or at least limit their consumption of egg yolk, butter, ghee from a young age?
So definitely egg yolk is very good. So I would suggest all parents should give their child an egg a day if it is socially
with the yolk, an egg a day with the yolk.
Yeah, with the yolk. Okay. So I think cholesterol is unfortunately demonized too much, as you put it. So good fats are always good for the growth of the child, growth and development of the child, and they're important, actually. So going on a very like a low fat diet or something should not be advocated, especially for kids who are actually growing. So it depends on the saturated fats, unsaturated fat, polyunsaturated fat, all those things. But in general, I would say let your child eat well, eat healthy fats. So things like avocado, all of that is also fatty, but it's good fats. Same with coconut. So it's not like you should exclude coconut chutney, but be okay with the child having, fries or something. So fries obviously will be bad. For example, a McDonald's Happy Meal actually has about 500 calories. And we do not know that. And almost like 200 or 250 calories are from just 150 calories were from saturated.
And recently, I think even the burgers, they said, the slime that was added and all that, recently some shocking findings came out. Vaishnavi, see, I've been I think I had mentioned this earlier. I've been a big fan of Rujita Divakar's book titled Don't Lose Your Mind, Lose Your Weight. Now, for a foodie like me, what she advocates is music to my ears. Eat ghee, eat aloo parathas, eat mangoes, any seasonal fruits. Eat dessert as a separate meal. What she says is if you have a craving for gulab jamun, don't eat it soon after your lunch. But eat it as a separate meal. Maybe defer it by another 2-3 hours. Eat it as a separate meal. Now, what she advocates is that anything that our grandmothers used to cook and give us, any of these laddus, even your date laddus and all that, my question is, those days we had to, we had no motor to pump water. We had to physically draw water from a well. We had no remote control devices. We had no cars to travel down the road. So our activity, our lifestyles were a lot different. So this argument of whatever our grandmothers fed us is good now. Is it valid today?
I would say no, definitely not, unless you have a very, very active lifestyle. So again, I believe everything in moderation is the key. That's why I said, I never said do not at all give your child biscuits or snacks. So it's always about moderation and something which is practically feasible. So again, if being couch potatoes or, sitting in the OP and not moving around much, if I keep eating aloo parathas and ghee laden stuff and laddus with every meal, then you're definitely going to balloon. So I would say definitely take it with a pinch of salt, because maybe her lifestyle is such that she's really active and she works out a lot and all that. But if your lifestyle is not, going to be commensurate with that, then I would say take it with a pinch of salt. So
Yeah, because when
always
you work out on the treadmill, you work out for 45 minutes, then you burn 75 calories, and you look at a brownie is 350 calories. So there's no connect there really.
Yeah,
Sharmila, to bring you back in here, people say, and I think it's not just a myth, it's also a reality, that what is tasty is often sinful, full of calories. What are your recommendations for food that is healthy but delicious as well? I know these can be relative terms, but give us some more examples of healthy but delicious food.
I think everything that you make at home, and if you have it in moderation, can be healthy and delicious. Because the difference between like what you buy in a bakery, for example.
So that is a trick thing actually. When you say anything that is in moderation and delicious, if it's delicious, you won't be we won't abide by the rules of moderation, right? You will tend to overeat.
Maybe. I guess so. But I honestly believe when you make things at home, you know what you're putting in it. So you can add ghee, you can add butter, you have homemade ingredients. The difficulty and the challenge comes from processed foods and all our bakery products and everything, which are the fats they use are trans fats, hydrogenated fats,
yes.
which are, there's no safe limit. Those are the ones that are causing cholesterol and heart rate. Sugar, for example, there's so much of very high sugar in all the ready-made products. So, if you make a cake at home, you make your halwas at home, you make, anything, our traditional sweets, and you make them at the time. What the difference is that, when she says what your grandmothers made, our grandmothers made sweets at Christmas time, at Diwali time, at festival time. The problem with us is that all those sweets are available all year round for us, right, in the local mithai shop. And so we're buying them. So I advocate a lot of eating how our grandmothers ate, because mainly they made everything at home. They had no place to buy biscuits and ready-made stuff. So everything was homemade, and everything was, made with local seasonal ingredients. You weren't getting fruit from all over the world all the way around. So that is a key thing about, eating like our grandmothers eat and eating local and seasonal. But to come back to your thing is, delicious, healthy food, you make a cake at home, you have it.
Delicious, healthy food is not an oxymoron, what you're saying.
No, it's not. It's not.
So give us examples. Give us 5 examples so that the parents who are watching this and children who are watching this will know A, B, C, D, E. 5 delicious but healthy food items.
Okay, so I make a cookie which is using sattamau, which is ragi and from like Grand Sweets or sattamau.
Ragi cookies, okay, 1.
You
2.
use nuts and ghee with that.
Okay, 2.
So that's healthy ingredients, and then you can make a cookie with oats, walnuts, again, jaggery instead of sugar. So that's using nuts, seeds, protein-based. Lots of muffins. You can use millets in a lot of this. So you have your gluten-free grains as well as granola bars. To me, one of the things I make regularly for the kids, rather than buying it, is granola bars, which use nuts, seeds, a whole variety of nuts and seeds, jaggery, and a little good fat. Cold processed coconut oil, for example.
So you refrigerate them, is it? This granola bars, you refrigerate them?
No, you don't have to refrigerate.
You don't have to. Okay.
But they're loaded with nutrition. Like one of the doctors said, the question is how much nutrition you can pack into every meal for your child. And key being protein, good fats, and of course vitamins.
Okay, see, that's the 3rd item. 2 more items. I'm also must understand vicariously. I'm asking these questions because I can also ask my wife to make these, because often at tea time, what's for tea? And that's the big $1 million question. So 3, you give us 3 exampple. 4, number 4.
Yeah. So a lot of our South Indian, the paniyarams, and I think Dr. Kausalya wants to add in some ideas.
I think, are you done?
I want to ask her for 2 more. She gave us paniyaram as the 4th one. 1 more, and then I'll let her go for now.
Oh.
One more, Sharmila.
You can add vegetables into a lot of our South Indian, paniyarams and dosas and.
So masala dosa doesn't only have to have potato. Masala dosa can have other vegetables also as filling.
And chutneys and podis, podis are like, seeds and so many good things in it. So there's all that can balance. And
podis that we get, in fact, opposite my place, there's a place, Ambika Aplam, where you get all these podis, but very high in salt content. So those who have hypertension and all need to watch out, right?
That's true. But you have
so 5. Okay, so 5 items. Okay, Sharmila has given us 5 items. Are these all these items in your book, Sharmila? I haven't read the whole book. I've seen parts of it.
Yeah, they're all in my book.
Okay, Kausalya, coming back to you. Want to say something? In fact, Dr. Benny Benjamin, well-known pediatrician, from whom I got to know about Sharmila, says that he liked the views of Dr. Vaishnavi. We have a fan there in Dr. Benny Benjamin.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yes, Kausalya.
So yeah, I think few more things I would like to add is the chia seed coconut milk pudding, which children really love. Chia seeds is healthy, and they see right now, Sanjay, the more idea what I observe with children is they want something consistently looking good, appealing, which is very important. Rasam rice, the immediate thing is a put off, it's drippy, it's flowy, all those kind of stuff they come out with. So I think chia seed pudding with coconut milk is one option. And then, apple with peanut butter, like a dip, or, some form of any other almond butter dip or something. And then mixed seed bars, how you get this kadala urunde, kadla mita, all those kind of stuff, chickis. We can make this as a same concept, mixed seed bars or mixed seed balls, which can be made at home as well with all kind of seeds. And of course, I love payasam. I think we should give children payasam, which is made out of jaggery. You can actually add instead some coconut sugar or date sugar.
In terms of glycemic index, a lot of people think that jaggery is a good escape route. But some diabetologists have told me otherwise, that jaggery is perhaps as harmful as refined sugar.
I think it's slightly lesser. Definitely
less glycemic index, okay.
Yeah, glycemic index is lower, but we can replace it with the coconut sugar, or you have date sugar in the market as well.
What about using dates itself, the actual dates itself, using that? Okay.
Yeah, you can. I think dates can be soaked. You can grind them into a paste and can be added into the payasam, And so you can use this, moong dal and coconut milk with elaichi and all, and you chill it and, you give it a new name, whatever you want to give, and then, it sells.
Okay. Simran, the cheat day principle. I read somewhere, I think Vidya showed me some post of yours where you said that one day in the week or one day in the month or something, you'll have a cheat day. I know of a group that advises people about millets on Facebook, and my wife Vidya is part of that group. They give this analogy of climbing up a steep mountain with great difficulty. Suddenly you take it easy and you fall down. So they equate this with a cheat day. After a week of rigorous dieting, you're back to square one, like a game of snakes and ladders. Do you agree with this?
So I personally don't advocate any cheat days, because I think, frankly, for my definition of a cheat day is you can't cheat with respect to your health. Okay, your health is your priority every single day, every single moment. Okay, so if healthy is delicious, and that's what we're talking about, and that's what we are following, then we don't need a break from something which is healthy, right? And because it's already delicious, it's a way of life. Frankly, my sense is that what my child is eating, so like I said, if my child wants a cheat day, then my option is that instead of the regular dal, sabzi, roti, we're going to have I make flatbread with millets. I make crepes with buckwheat. So I'm going to have a chicken crepe with buckwheat inside. I'm going to give them that. They want to eat something fancy. That's a cheat day, for me. But it will have to happen with something where we are not compromising on the overall principle of health. Because I'm not keen to send out a messaging to my child, nor do I want to actually set that example from my end that, that there is any single day that we need to take a break from taking care of our health, to be very honest, because to me,
that's very well put. Yeah.
Change from my direct, connection with cheat day becomes that to me. I don't want to do it myself, and I don't want to encourage my child to do it either. So we don't have a concept of cheat day at all. For us, cheat day means eating something different from what we eat regularly. But we don't compromise on the health. Yeah.
Yes, Lata, I want to ask you, Lata, how much, as Vedant grows up, do you worry if your healthy food menu will be sustainable? Let's say he goes abroad, or he goes to let's say IIT in Delhi to study there. Do you worry that yours may not be a sustainable menu that you're making him accustomed to? And what happens, let's say, if you're unable to cook on a certain day? Who fills in that gap?
To answer the first question, That's a confidence with which I started, because assuming I had been taught to be a vegetarian by my parents. I stayed a vegetarian all through. My husband doesn't even have onions and garlic. He's traveled to most of the countries and he's never had an onion and garlic.
And he cycles to work and drops his son also to school by cycle. Okay.
Yeah, someway he found his way around that. Okay, so one point I would like to add, this might be totally away from your question, about this delicious food and healthy eating.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
I really read this point early, that stayed in my mind, and that's how I actually, Vedant is very much in the panel right now, so I can't let the secret out to him, but it's okay. He's old enough to understand that right now. I read this book by Dr. Benjamin Spock. This was when he was maybe a month old. And there was a point about the way we glorify junk. Okay. So that really stayed. What happens is, say, assuming like there is something I need to get done out of Vedant. I'll say, Vedant, if you do this, I'll give you a nice biscuit. Okay. Or a nice vada, nice payasam, nice laddu. Have we ever said anything? So in his mind, those are all special things. You will not believe what I tried doing was, I'll tell you, Vedant, if you do this, you'll have rasam and vendaka curry. He will say, yay! So it is, I say, it's like the placebo effect, or the way we train.
What if you say, Vedant, if you don't do your homework, I'll give you a chocolate? Where you disincentivize junk food.
Yeah, so I really told him that. I'll tell him, Vedant, if you do this, I'll give you one yummy banana. He'll say, yeah. My mother will be psyched out. What is this? The way you are actually trained. Because in our homes, the junk is always...
When you say yummy banana and yummy rasam rice with bendaka, people will think, what a cruel mother this is.
No, actually, you don't know. Even as recently as last week, my brother who's in the Air Force, he said like, you're too regimental. See, I can't be. Actually, you also know the fact. He started going to school. He's meeting up with so many friends. I can't be at the back of him all the time. But the point is, we all have fond memories of our mother's food or our grandmom's food, not because they were tasty. There are so many things associated with that. So, which I truly believe that can be continued. And the sustainability, see, it's always a matter of chance, Sanjay. We might develop a taste much later on. I've never, what would I say, like the pizza came into our life the first time when I was maybe 25, 26. Okay, so we never know how but the foundation is laid. I hope it will help in the future. But
in fact, Kausalya made a very valid point. She says, what you call your food also. You can call it, name it, label them creatively. Like tender coconut water can be called coconut cola. That's a different
Nice.
Cocoa cola in a different sense. Let me bring in, I want to bring in, Vedant is a witness really here on this show. Vedant, do you go to birthday parties? Vedant?
Yes, I do go to birthday parties.
Okay, what do you eat in birthday parties?
Well, here's one example. See, for the first few years of my life, I never went to birthday parties. I didn't have that many friends. I was only going to preschool then. So my mom set my good habits up then itself. So then my friends' parents, they started knowing that I would only eat dosa or an idli rather than a pizza and a burger. So one day I went to one of my friends' birthday parties, and what happened there were two counters. My mom was the one who told me this story. One counter was full of French fries, pizzas, burgers, and one was specially for me with idlis and salads.
Okay. So if you want to invite Vedant to a birthday party, make sure you have healthy food. That's the message. Vedant, don't you get, I'm just asking you because I find this so incredible. In fact, I find it almost unbelievably inspiring. Don't you get tempted by your friends when they eat chocolates and pastries in front of you? How do your classmates react to your snacks that you take to school?
First, it's my strength. I decide not to. Even after that, if I'm still tempted, I go to my mom I tell her somebody's offering me something, she gives me a very nice alternative. Even after that, if I'm tempted, I don't keep thinking about it. I just move on. I do something else. Because if you keep on thinking about the thing, you get more and more tempted.
This is certainly about how you're about, what, 10 years now, Vedant?
Yes, I'm
11, going to be 11.
Yes, going to be 11.
Absolutely. I mean, a boy whose maturity is far beyond and discipline far beyond his years. I really wish children like Vedant can be cloned in our world, and and others can, what a role model at such a young age. Really, full marks. I think we should give a virtual salute to Vedant and his mother Lata for for this sort of unbelievable, incredible dietary discipline. Dr. Vaishnavi, going by your practice, as a pediatrician, are you seeing in terms of lifestyle diseases among children related to diet? Are you seeing children today with elevated liver enzymes, higher SGOT, SGPT levels, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease among children? Is this being diagnosed early?
We do not get that much of like non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That is a very one-off and incidental diagnosis. But we do see that a lot of them do have elevated lipid levels, and especially if there's a family history of hypertension and.
How do you diagnose that? I mean, what do you actually do to get that?
So it's if there is a child who's obese, we of course plot the BMI on the charts. So if it is more than between the 85th to 95th centile on the chart, it's considered overweight, and more than 95th is obese. So that will correspond to say around 24 BMI for an adult and 27 for an adult, as opposed to the 25 and 30 that we use for adults. So if that is the case, and if it's only purely like a lifestyle issue, then we suggest diet modifications and also increased physical activity. And if even despite that, they still we feel that there is a thing, or if there are some pointers like acanthosis nigricans, which is hyperpigmentation in the at the neck and in the armpits, etc., then they may require some endocrine evaluation. So in that case, we'll do fasting sugar, insulin, lipid levels, liver function tests, etc., and then depending on what that shows us, then we'll go forward. But that is not so common, Sanjay. It's more of the lifestyle issues. So about 5% only will be because of endocrine reasons. The rest of it is pretty much lifestyle. And again, it's not like obesity runs in your family. It's like nobody runs in your family. So if parents are obese, it's mostly because of, again, lifestyle issues, unless there is a very strong genetic predilection. But it's mostly what, like somebody mentioned, it's what they just model the parents' eating patterns and activity, behaviors, etc. So. Okay. And
what about, would you say that kids can use a treadmill as an advisable to make kids now when you find it difficult to take them out to the park because the various restrictions in place because of COVID?
Yeah.
Is it okay for kids to use a treadmill?
Yeah. Treadmill is okay.
At a speed of about 4.5 or 5 for about 15 minutes a day?
Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah, so treadmill is okay, but not the weights until they are
not weights and all. Okay.
Yeah, not weights. But the best would be open air spaces. Let them play and really be a child. That's very important. I know a lot of parents are very anxious about COVID and other people, to let the child play, but that's very, very crucial for social.
The thing is, the practical difficulty here, Vaishnavi, is that you may wear a mask, you may be careful. The guy outside there who's coming to deliver something will have his mask below his nose. So the only way to protect your child is to, how do you really protect a child? Let me bring it Kausalya back here. Dr. Kausalya, should dieting be draconian? Can you give us some steps as to how dieting need not be so draconian as it is today?
I think it's about inculcating it as a family practice. Everybody eats the same. All of us, make sure that, potato fry, yes, once in a way when it's made at home, the old practice, all said and done, going back, there used to be one vegetable made and probably one sambar or one rasam, and all of us used to eat the same thing. All of us sitting together and eating the food, and vegetable is shared. One bowl of vegetable is made, it's actually divided into 4 people in the family, or depending on the number of people, it's being shared. That's okay to have an appalam. There's nothing wrong to have an
what about non-veg? How often can someone have non-veg in the week? 7 days a week, okay? Thrice a day, 7 days a week?
Thrice a week should be okay, and it's good to have more of white meat. That's the egg whites. And
what about
fish?
Chicken and eggs every day? Chicken, eggs, or fish every day, 7 days a week, thrice a day?
Thrice a day. No, I think that becomes a little too much on the
too much of protein.
Yeah,
Too
that
much.
becomes a
Too
little
much,
high on the protein component there, and balance won't be there. And second thing is, children, if there is a non-vegetarian option 3 meal, they will forget vegetables and fruits altogether. You know, they would, over a period, even they touch 18, 19, there'll be an aversion towards vegetables. So I think vegetable is a must, and maybe weekly, twice or thrice, I think non-vegetarian food will be a good option. And probably, meat like chicken and, lean meats and white meat is a better option compared to the red meat version.
Okay.
So
I agree with
when
that.
the
I
habit
agree with
comes
that. Yeah.
Yes.
Especially because we
habit
know that
comes
poultry. Sorry. I thought you finished.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, Vaishnavi.
Yeah, no, especially because we know like poultry is pumped with a lot of steroids and antibiotics and all that. So it does affect the menstrual cycles in girls, etc.
What about ammonia being injected into bananas and coloring of beans and brinjals being injected with
The organic. No, but see, at least those, I mean, pesticides are there in all foods, but if you soak them, or depending on what the thing is, if you soak them or clean them very well with like vinegar, turmeric, and salt water, etc., you get rid of some of it. But this thing which is injected and it's in the animal, so that's why 7 days a week, definitely not. 3 days a week, I agree. Yeah, 3 days.
Some of the questions I'm asking for myself also on the slide. No, do we have Aisha Rao on the show? Aisha Rao, I was told that Aisha Rao wanted to join the show. Aisha Rao, are you there? Okay. Then let me bounce this off to Dr. Vaishnavi itself. Dr. Vaishnavi, we talk of noon. So far we're talking about urban children. What about those, or less privileged backgrounds? I don't know if you've observed the nutrition levels in the noon meal scheme that children get in corporation schools. What are the relatively inexpensive but nutritious food items that poor families can give their children?
Yes. So this is definitely a point that in another panel discussion that I also brought up, that because healthy foods are actually expensive. Fruits, vegetables, the cost has just escalated. It's actually even like grains for that matter. So if you give a child 10 rupees and you say, go get yourself a snack, he cannot buy an apple. He cannot buy anything substantial, which is really healthy, maybe except a banana. But he can get chips, he can get umpteen varieties of biscuits, etc. So this, I really think there should be a tax on, junk food and colas, etc., like a sugar tax that they have abroad, so that it becomes, I'm not saying expensive, but it should at least prompt people to think twice before buying.
I think we should I would add on to that. I would say we should have a statutory warning, like for tobacco, statutory warning for items that have trans fat, items that are pumped with sugar, or even for instance these colas and all that. So I think it's important. I don't know why. I think the lobby is so strong that they're not able to get this through.
True. Yeah. So it's actually sad, because I also agree. I mean, really, like, what can they buy in the 10 rupees that you give them? So see, again, dal, all that has become expensive. Otherwise, those would have been good options. Vegetables are actually good options. So chana, rajma, all of those are actually quite expensive. So probably khichdi and things like that, which they can make, kanji. Actually, fermented rice kanji is good. That actually has a lot of B vitamins as well. So that what they use, that pare sore that they make. So things like that. But again, they are also moving away from those lifestyle practices, and they are having like samosa, puffs, and their lower cost items are also low in nutrient content. So that is a sad reality.
Sharmila, do you want to add in here low cost healthy options for children from less privileged backgrounds?
I absolutely agree with Dr. Vaishnavi says, is actually healthy food is expensive. And the tragedy is in our villages, where the nutrition levels are actually dropping and are really bad. The only cheap food are 10 rupee, 5 rupee packets of biscuits, 5 rupee packs of mixtures and chips. But I would advocate the two things that come to mind, which are nutritious and obviously available locally. One is peanuts or groundnuts, which are still not as expensive as all the other nuts and seeds, and chana, roasted chana, kadale.
What about corn?
So that is a
corn.
Sorry.
Corn is also good.
Corn is not as nutritious as and it's not also easily available except in the frozen or in season. But corn itself is more of a cereal and a carbohydrate rather than a nutritious. So both nuts, these kadala and chana and peanuts are protein.
What about these so-called, Shamila, these so-called healthy options, like for instance, cornflakes for breakfast, which again has a lot of preservatives and added sugar. Oats that you get in the market from a departmental store, again processed.
Yes.
So people think that we are giving our children cornflakes, we're giving them oats, these are healthy options, but actually they are not.
They're not. They're not. Cornflakes are just very highly processed corn, which again is not nutritious by itself, and it also has added sugar. So our Indian breakfasts are the best options. You know, our porridges, our ragi, the idli dosas with sambar and chutney on the sides, even chilas, which are, you know, nutritious, the North Indian style chilas, or even a paratha based on how, you know, active your lifestyles are. So our Indian breakfasts are definitely the more healthy option. Or, you know, if you're not having a very active lifestyle, you can just have fruit for breakfast. You know, give your kids a banana and a peanut butter. My kids used to rush off to school with that and a glass of milk. You know, both very nutritious. So that is definitely what
today there's vegan choices that people have. In fact, they stop giving their children milk. You say that milk is definitely must be part of daily dietary requirements.
No, milk is actually the same issue with chicken is because animals are pumped with antibiotics. So milk has also become into
oxytocin.
Yes, and hormones, growth hormones and all, it's been affecting lifestyles. So, I mean, milk is not needed for growth actually, but you have to make sure that the kids have alternative sources of calcium. So ragi, for example, is very high in calcium. Sesame seeds are high in calcium, and lots of our spinach and all the green vegetables all are very high in calcium. So, you know, if you're a concerned parent and you do not want to feed your kids milk, you just have to make sure that they have the calcium and protein source from another source.
Okay, let's now throw it open. It's you know, more than an hour since we started our chat. Let's throw it open to the audience and see if there are members of the audience who would like to share their views or like to ask specific questions to any of the experts on our panel. You can raise your hand virtually, and then we'll come to you. We have a kind of a visa entry here where we'll have to add you as a panelist and then take you in. So immigration counters are open.
Sanjay, a few healthy snacks that I'd like to add, like
please,
poha or aval. Yeah, poha, no. So you can make it both savory or aval, as we in the south say. So aval, you can make it either sweet aval with some jaggery, little bit of coconut. It's actually extremely yummy.
Yes.
And same with, you can make it the, you know, savory form with a little bit of lime juice and tadka, etc. So poha is definitely a good option. It's filling at the same time. It's not like you don't feel really full, and it's pretty easy to make as well. Chikki, as somebody mentioned, then stuffed capsicum or mushrooms. So baked items like that. You can actually bake cutlets. You can bake koftas, etc. So you have a lot of alternatives to the traditional deep fried ones. So yeah, you know, even a fruit salad, you can make the fruit salad interesting. You can make a chaat with, you know, sweet corn and like bale, homemade things. That's always more healthy. So these are some of the other options that came to mind when you.
Were you brought up with this kind of a strict diet, Vaishnavi? Because when I hear you speak, because sometimes it grows on you, I'm told. Like, for instance, I'm sure I can imagine Vedant when he turns 21. So were you also like Vedant when you were, you know, a child?
So I used to have just pretty much homemade food. I think going out or having outside food was a very like an occasional thing.
I was right.
really thank my mom for that, because she's an amazing cook. So yeah, absolutely nothing to complain about. Sundal is one other option that she also mentioned. So sundal is another thing. So, you know, different types of sundal you can make. So, you know, the Navratri style how we have, right? So that is another great snacking option. So, and I think we were all told, like we were brought up in a sense, like, you know, eat your vegetables. Like we were not given an option. Nowadays, kids, I think, are overindulged. They are pampered and, you know, pandered to too much. It's like the child has become the parent, and that's the unfortunate reality. But we were said, you know, we're told to eat. So even if I don't like a particular variety of spinach, I would still eat it. Even if I didn't really like the taste, I would still eat it. And, you know, we were also told about the value of food. Like, you know, it's a divine, it's a gift from God or from the universe, whatever. And we are lucky and blessed to have it. So I think we should, parents should inculcate this message as well in their kids, because now it's all about excess. Like, you know, you order so much, everything, like you just waste it. I think children don't realize the value of food and value of things in general nowadays. And I always tell this to parents who come to the OPD that, you know, you should make sure that the kid realizes how lucky, and I tell the child as well, your parents are giving you fruits and vegetables, so you're lucky. There are a lot of kids who do not get all this. So please do eat. And, you know, it will, you keep drilling it into them and they will learn it somehow.
Okay. I think Vidya had a question. Vidya?
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. My first question is, this concept of boredom and eating. What I face is, at the beginning of pandemic and lockdown, I was making ragi cookies, ragi cakes, and all healthy stuff. Eat for today, and then I'm hungry again in the evening. As in, what happened is I'm bored, so therefore I need to eat something. So I need to keep them, occupied. They can't go out and play during that time. So indoors, how much of TV can they watch? How much of computer time can they have? How much sit down only read books? Or even playing Scrabble with your parents or whatever board games, they get bored very soon. So how much ever you feed them, they want to eat something not because they're hungry, but to kill boredom. So how do you address that situation?
I'll ask Kausalya to take that. Kausalya?
Yeah. I think, hi, Vidya. So I think it's, basically, as you say, not only with kids, even with adults, I think, we just have the habit of opening the refrigerator for no reason. We don't have to, there's nothing, you're not hungry, you're neither thirsty, but then the habit of just checking the refrigerator to check what is there. See, the best way is to keep something always interesting in it in small portions. So, for example, if I make the chia seed pudding, make it in small containers and keep it. So whenever they are hungry, whenever they are bored, they can actually indulge in it. That's okay. That won't kind of cause any harm to them.
When I am making, they're like, investigating officers right behind me. So as I am making it, they end up tasting it, or they won't eat it because I made it. They don't wait for their, snack time to eat, or when they're hungry to eat. So they end up finishing it while as soon as I made it. So then again, after 2 hours, 3 hours, they ask me, something to eat. So how do I handle it?
Are you talking about the children or the husband?
Both.
I think distraction techniques will work better here if it's not just about the hunger. So just distract them, actually ask them to make something. So I think we should also involve the kids more in both buying of food so that they know the nutritional quantities and, discuss all this with them, because otherwise they are literally just in front of their screens, either for classes or TV, and they just, they're mindlessly asking you, and they don't realize one value of it. The second is they do not know the nutrition thing or what is good, or it's just like, okay, Amma saying something. But when they are involved in the process actively, I think they will take it more into their heart about what is good for them, what is not good. And then also let them, like, no fire cooking example. If they are for like younger kids, they can make their own like fruit salad, they can make simple sandwiches, etc. So I think involve them with something, ask them to help with chores. I'm pretty sure their boredom will go away.
My twins are listening, and I'm asking, is it all right for the parent to say, it's okay, you go starve for some time? It's called fasting. When they want to have their extra, is it all right for us to say it's
do they have a question? Sanvi, Vedant, do you have a question? You heard Vedant there, your classmate. Sanvi and Vedant, do you have a question to ask?
I have to unmute. If they raise their hand, if they want to ask, I'll unmute them.
Sharmila, do you want to answer that? How do you respond to a child telling the mother, I'm bored and therefore you need to give me something to eat? What do you give them then?
One thing which I find is a very healthy way to fill up kids is nuts, nuts and seeds. Or a small fistful of nuts is a very good snack. You can roast it, salt it a little bit, and make it tasty and keep that as a snack, and that will keep them full. Definitely sugary biscuits and all doesn't last very long because they metabolize so quickly in the body. But I think, as you said, it's distraction. If kids are playing actively with their friends or involved in a game or a book, they don't think about food. So the whole thing is, getting them to do something that's not boring. And kids have to know that, being bored is also okay. And then it's fine to be bored. We weren't entertained with constant video games and passive entertainment right through our childhood. We devised our own games, or we read a book, or we, walked outside. So one thing is that the kids need to know that it's okay to be bored. And secondly, I think absolutely, get them to make their own snacks. Again, part of the point of my book is that, get kids, catch them young. Only if kids get involved with food from a young age and they know what it does to them, will they, turn into healthy adults. What's happening in our current society is that, in our 40s and 50s, all the lifestyle diseases catch up with us because we didn't know in our childhoods that these things were bad for us. And so, we spend so much of money on our kids' schools, books, gifts and classes, health education of what's good for kids, taking them to the market, talking about them, taking them to farms to see how food is grown, just some involvement, gardening, all of that. So, that's
So
all.
these should be part of the curriculum, if you ask me.
Absolutely.
Cooking should be, instead of going and doing experiments, I don't know, when I had to do experiments in the lab, I had no idea of becoming a doctor or an engineer.
Yeah.
I had to go and mix some chemicals in a lab. Instead, I would have been better off if I had been taken to a kitchen in the canteen or something to cook up a meal.
Yeah.
Similarly, mathematics, making kids study mathematics up to class 10, as a compulsory subject, I think is a complete waste of time, especially for those who don't have an aptitude. Instead, you can teach them how to cook, teach them first aid, teach them, so many other things can be taught. I think the curriculum itself has to change.
There are some schools that are doing that. In fact, I taught a 6-month on food and nutrition with a bunch of kids for 6 months, and it was fabulous. One session was on protein, and then the next session we actually made hummus and made protein-based dishes. And those kids got so engaged. They all understood about what was junk food. They started to eat healthier. I mean, this was feedback I got from the parents and teachers, and they were really able to understand how food involved in their lives. It was really a great experience. So,
any other questions? I want to bring in Simran also. I think Simran is staying on, although she's traveling. You can see her mask on. Simran, do you want to add to what, this option of stress eating? Child is stressed, and eating is a way of, of killing time in a sense.
Yes, sorry, Sanjay, I think you said eating as a
stress-induced eating. How do you handle the stress-induced eating when a child comes and tells a mother, "I'm bored, I want something to eat"?
Yeah, I think it happens a lot with children nowadays, especially because of the pandemic. Also, and I think because they're restricted at home. But I think I think having very fixed routines. Frankly, I personally feel that children thrive a lot on routine. So if you have a routine of, especially meal times, I don't think kids will end up, snacking mindlessly just because, it's readily available or because they're bored. I think it happens usually when there is really no fixed time of when they need to eat. Their body is not used to a pattern of eating. Their body is not used to certain meal timings. So I think setting that right is a very, very good option. So the moment you have a little bit of a routine and they know when exactly to eat, they're not likely to come back with that. That's one. The second is defining the portion size. So the portions have to be good. So if they're eating 3 big meals, let them have 3 good big meals, not very, very small portions, and then have 2 good snacks or 3 good snacks. So I think portion also makes a big difference, and the timing makes a big difference to cut out mindless eating.
Simran, taking forward what Dr. Aishwarya had raised earlier, I had mentioned almond flour, the different varieties of flours, coconut all these are absolutely expensive. So how do you address, healthy eating, regular snacking with these exotic ingredients, to put it, in your everyday lifestyle? Would we be able to sustain it, a normal middle class family, or any child, any parents, who want to, introduce healthy food to their child?
So David, I think what happens is that when we actually look at very specific kind of diet, it becomes, to be very honest, it's not sustainable. Okay, so from a regular eating point of view, like I'm speaking from experience because when my daughter was diagnosed with type 1, a lot of parents also started saying that, you should follow a very very strict low carb diet. But, and which means that all the food and all the flour that we need to eat will have to be related to almond flour, like you mentioned, or coconut flour, and things like that. But to be very honest, one is what I realized, what I would tell them is that I want my child to eat healthy carbohydrates. I want my child to eat moderate carbohydrates, not refined carbohydrates, but I'm preparing my child for the world outside. I'm not preparing my child in a situation where nobody else will be able to prepare that meal for her. So from a sustainability point of view, we need to eat healthy. We need to eat what is readily available. We also need to make our child ready from the point of view of being able to eat those things and get access to those things quickly. So
Okay.
I would not suggest, just blindly following anything, without being aware of
how sustainable that really is in the long run.
Before Vidya has two more questions. Before that, I'd like to ask Sharmila, any healthy Christmas snacks? Kalkals, rose cookies, plum cake, eggless plum cake. Any healthy?
Sanjay, the whole point of Christmas is it's a treat. It's a festival.
No, that's why. Now, see, you're contradicting yourself earlier when I asked you whether healthy and delicious is an oxymoron.
And the all thing about Christmas sweets is they're all homemade. That's a big difference. All Christmas sweets are homemade. In Goa, for example, they make a lot of sweets with Goa jaggery and coconut. So those are always pretty healthy to eat. But again, a range of Christmas sweets in moderation. I mean, you're not going to. I don't know whether people really binge.
See, this thing of homemade again.
Yeah.
Homemade, like for instance, my father hails from Mangalore, where they used to eat pork, sorpotel, and sanas.
Yeah.
Okay, very high calories, and almost designed for cholesterol. The statin lobby will be happy with that diet. So sometimes we seem to believe that what is homemade is necessarily healthy, but actually the kind of ingredients that are used. I mean, how often we use olive oil. Sometimes they say olive oil is overrated, but then there are also reports that suggest that in the Mediterranean region where olive oil is used, there are fewer heart attacks there. So we have to bust this myth that everything that is homemade is necessarily healthy. It depends on how it is made, right?
You're absolutely right. How it's made. See, coming back to Christmas sweets, I think there are two aspects. One is the whole aspect of the family getting together and making them. So
yes.
That's, getting the family involved. It's a tradition. It's a ritual. And, eating them, and you literally make them only that once a year. On your point of sorpatel and sannas are a steamed rice cake fermented. So they're actually quite healthy. How much sorpatel would you eat? You're not going to eat a half a kilo of sorpatel. You'll eat a little katori versus.
You will be surprised.
Really? Okay. But I think the balance of that, our diets, at least even in Goa and things like that, people are still pretty healthy because they eat, for the most part, fish and rice and things. And these are.
My father, I remember in Mangalore, they used to eat fish even for breakfast.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Small fish. It's never seared and these large.
Yes, that's true. Yes, small fish. Yes.
With local red rice and the local vegetables. So on balance, these diets, even a non-vegetarian diet, sometimes 3 times a day, if they are balanced in the right proportions and the right.
Four times a day, snacks also. Yeah. 4 times a day. Vidya, I held you back. Vidya, your questions. You're free to ask questions to any of the experts.
I have a question for Vedant. Vedant, full marks to you, very inspiring. So the question that I have for you is, they talk about this concept of peer pressure. Your friends put pressure on you to do something, or they influence you to do something. Any way that any of your friends have been inspired by you? Have they changed their diet? Vedant is eating only that. You send, for me also, snacks, only salad or fruits. Has that happened? Has anyone else for another birthday party joined you for the salad bar and did not go for the cookie and the cake counter?
Yes. See, in my school, when I was a bit younger, around my pre-KG, LKG, around then, first I was offered junk food, then I was almost forced to eat it. But after that, one of my friends, he actually went to his dad and said, I don't want to eat cheese pizza anymore. Vedant is doing it, so can I? Like that. Some people, yes, they have been influenced by me. But my mom knows it better.
Awesome. Now, my next question is for Lata right now. Lata, the challenge in sustaining, particularly, you're a woman and you are the only chef, the cook in the house. Let's assume your husband doesn't know cooking. So there would be those days when you are sick and you can't, prepare that extra snack or anything for your child, and you don't have support system. No, your mother and your mother-in-law are not there near you to help. So what do you do during those occasions? How do you, sustain healthy? Because in my house, on those occasions when I'm, probably busy at work having a client meeting, or I am sick, those are the days when Maggi noodles will come in. Instant thing of, giving the kids something to eat.
No, what about my scrambled egg and all that?
What kids?
Yes, Lata.
You need to unmute yourself.
The answer I'm going to give, neither my mom nor my mother-in-law knows. So it's only strictly for the panel only. Like Dr. Vaishnavi said.
So I must warn you, this will be recorded and they may get to see it. So just edit it accordingly.
I taught Vedant to cook much early. Most of the things that I do, he can do it himself. Because like there are definitely many days like I'm not home. Okay, there are days like we have night shifts. I'm absolutely not home. So he can quickly make a juice for himself. He can make kanji for himself. He can keep idli for himself. So that was something like I always felt cooking is very, very integral to everyone's life, because most often we want to eat healthy, but the thing is we don't know how to make it. Okay, so we end up eating something from whatever is being given or wherever. So I tried, and there is one, this is Vidya, this is for you. I'll send you the recipe later. There's a kind of fruit salad we make, which he just loves. We use either mango or banana as the base, like that custard pudding, no? Where we add all the fruits, all the seeds that Dr. Kausala was mentioning. And then we also add all the dry fruits. It's one very, very solid, healthy meal. So I've taught him many things like that. So whenever he's hungry, he doesn't have to wait. Or on days like I'm sick or I'm at work, he will not wait for me.
The fruit salad without ice cream, Lata.
Yeah, Vedant is vegan.
Okay.
So I think not knowing, it's the use of knife. What age Vedant started using knife to cut an apple? Because a banana is fine, but an apple is not easy. It's tricky.
Around 7, Vidya. But I was there around to teach him. It wasn't that irresponsible an act. But having known him, he's generally quite stable and calm child. So I know how safe or unsafe it is. So he keeps rice at home. He's the one who actually keeps the rice at home. So I found a good alternate. I couldn't train Krishna that way. So I trained Vedant there.
I think Lata should be empaneled in all schools, board of studies. And should take guest lectures in all schools and colleges. And I seriously, in fact,
no, we need to trust our kids, Sanjay. That was my learning as a parent, because even I live in the same society. As you said, Wonder Woman in a different way. You know what? You need to fight the system day in and day out. How much of questions I being asked because I'm doing the right thing. They feel like I'm torturing my child. They feel like I'm really doing the worst thing that a mother can ever do to a kid.
I think society really needs to have this hands-off approach. If you can't
extremely difficult to keep answering questions. You are fighting against the tide. So it's actually not so easy. But the proof of the pudding is like, at least I'm seeing Vedant shape up well. Actually, Dr. Vaishnavi, she should.
The proof of the pudding is in the nuts and in the seeds, and not in the fat and the ice cream and all that. But yeah, and I think really society should really back off these matters. But at the end of the day, it's each his own, and you don't have to be politically correct really in that sense.
It's very difficult to answer, because even the parents who want their child to have a healthy eating habit, even sometimes like I have known Vidya all along, like how much she supports me and also she tries. But there are definitely many parents like who.
Okay, Lata, we seem to have lost your audio, frozen a bit. I think society has been watching you, and they've kind of sabotaged whatever further that you had to say, Lata. But we got the drift of what you were saying. Final comments from our panelists.
To use the core,
we go to final, since we're kind of out of time now. We push out our time. Final comments, one-liners perhaps from all our panelists. Kausalya, we'll start with you first.
Yeah, sure. I think first thing I would say, Sanjay, is take home is incorporate it as a family practice. Develop a positive relationship with food, which has to come from parents to the child. How we pass on many things. I think the habit which probably we all grew up with was like that. I think it's time we incorporate it to our family, and that's the way we can actually bring in positivity or a good relationship for them to develop with food.
That's well put. Dr. Vaishnavi, thank you, Kausalya.
Yes, Yeah, I agree with Dr. Kausalya. It should become a family meal, like a family event. Everybody sits at the table, talks about their day, or let them tell stories, or you can just quiz them on minor things. It should actually be a family meal and should be away from the screens, because again, the screen time, when I question parents, the immediate response is like from 90% of them is when he eats, he has to watch something. So I think we should definitely go away from that, because that is mindless eating, and you don't know about the satiety signals. The child is just being force fed or being fed, or just popping things. You mentioned the popcorn. So interestingly, I was thinking, like, if I came to your house after you had a good Sunday lunch, and if I gave you a bucket of popcorn, like what the size we get in Satyam Cinemas, locked you in a room without your phone or TV, you will not be able to finish that entire thing. But while we watch the movie, or while we, this thing, we just, mindlessly eat. So I think the association of thing, it should ultimately, it's mind over matter, even for your Netflix shows. So I used to be a big junk food, almost like an addict, because
we can have a popcorn challenge one day. Popcorn challenge. Even if I'm not watching anything, I'll be able to finish it off. Yeah, popcorn challenge when you come to Chennai next.
Right. Yeah. So it's ultimately mind over matter. So it's like, because after I started doing intermittent fasting, because I have a strong family history of diabetes. So for that, I started doing IF, and then I realized initially it's tough, but then later, even if I'm watching something at night, I don't eat anything. I just have water, if at all I feel like I want to have something. So I think that's what we should practice as well.
That's a good tip for me. Drink water when you feel hungry in the night.
Yeah.
Sharmila?
Yeah, Sanjay, on the topic of water, I think the first advice I would give to all the people watching, and especially related to eating of kids, is to cut the sugary drinks. If there's a one thing that you can do to slowly dewean your kids from junk food, the sugary drinks is the easiest way to start like diabetes and affecting your health. So drinking water or coconut water or a homemade lime juice is a better option. So that's one thing. And second is getting your kids to read food labels from a young age. It's great fun for kids. In fact, try it on your kids. You actually have to do some math and addition and division. So that's one other message. And the third is really get kids involved in the kitchen and food from a young age. So those are my three messages to continue.
Thank you, Shamia. Simran?
So Sanjay, I think a couple of things which I've already spoken about, but I'll just reiterate that. One is, like I said, I don't think we need to take a break from our health. So I think if we start building that concept around our life and for our children, I don't think they will think of, delicious food as something to be had only on a break day. So healthy is delicious is something that we'll need to live every day, and it's something that we will have to follow every day. That's one. The second thing is, I think, from an eating point of view, again, the thing is, I think I need to consciously focus on emphasizing that sweet snacks, sweet taste is not essential. Okay, we can have something which is savory and build a flavor palette for that. It's what we feed our children and how the flavor palette develops as well. I think if we are able to do these two things, they're fairly sustainable in the long run.
Lata, any last minute tips, final tips for our audience?
Never tempt your child and expect him to resist that. That's a very bad habit. We, as adults, we find it very difficult to control ourselves and resist temptations. So I have seen houses where the entire house is filled with all kinds of junk, and they expect the kid to fall in line. Practice what we preach. Definitely most important point. I can't eat whatever is given to me at all the parties and expect my son not to eat, touch it, or do anything. And
lead by example, yes.
Yeah, you need to lead the example, and never fill your house with junk. See, even if need be, we might not immediately go to a store, buy and come. That much lag there might be, it can be developed. So
I think also the habit of recycling, like for instance, Christmas or Diwali time, a lot of people send boxes of sweets and cakes and all that. Yeah. What we do is, like for instance, okay, I won't say this on air. I think it's good to recycle, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll end up sort of binge eating and during festivals.
Yeah, never have that at home. That's most important. Load the house with things. Even if you don't like it, it's okay. But when you're really hungry, you will definitely.
As they say, lead me not into temptation. I can find the way myself.
True. And especially with your child, it's very, very dangerous. You tempt and then expect him to resist. And then it creates such a ruckus and drama at homes that I have seen. Very difficult, very unfair on the child, actually.
So finally, we leave the final word with Vedant. Vedant, what advice do you have to give the adults watching the show? What advice do you as a child have to give parents who are watching this as to what they should feed their children with?
Like my mother said, you shouldn't tempt anybody. You should rather fill the house with better options. And also my mom always taught me to, one, be positive, and two, she made me feel proud that I actually eat healthy food. When I say I've never had a pizza, I don't say it sadly. I say it to my friends proudly.
Yes, it's a badge of honor for you. Are you at home right now, Vedant?
Yes, I'm at home.
Is it possible for you to move your phone or your computer and show us what is stocked in your house? I'm just trying to get a little ambitious.
Vedant, you can go to the fridge and bring the.
Yeah, I want to see Lata's fridge.
Yeah.
There used to be a gym instructor who used to rate the homes of his students, of his members, and check. So if you find the brownie or cheese and all in their fridge, the next day would be an extra workout. So this rate the fridge concept. So we are trying to subject to privacy is a fundamental right today.
No, not privacy. It will be dirty.
That's the difference in a house and a home. That's the difference in a house and a home. But no, I was just pushing it. No, I'm just kidding. But thank you very much. I think these are the programs that actually should be on national television. I'm never tired of saying this. These are the programs that should be on national television. These are the programs that should be featured in our newspapers. Sadly, we don't get good coverage for these things because there are other things. You see, there are more important pressing things like political controversies that need to fill up all our mind space. Vedant, yes, you wanted to add something, Vedant?
Yeah, my mother, she first created a foundation. For the first 10 years of my life, she's helped me. And for the past 6 months, even I myself have been vegan. Actually, it wasn't my mother who asked me to be vegan. I myself watched a show and I chose to become vegan.
Okay, that's amazing.
After that, she provided different alternatives to milk.
Okay.
She found vegan items for me.
Absolutely inspiring, amazing story of Vedant Krishna here on our show, the last of our webinars of 2021. Hopefully, we'll be back in the new year. Thank you, panelists. I really appreciate you joining us on a Saturday afternoon, foregoing your afternoon nap, and I dare say your evening snack as well. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Kausalya, Dr. Vaishnavi, Sharmila, Simran, Lata, and Vedant, and Vidya, and Shubha, and the team at UNICEF and PII, Sashi Nair and Sugata, for giving us this platform to have a meaningful dialogue on issues that really matter, not the political controversies that are absolutely, I wouldn't say zero calorie, but zero news value issues that are hogging our headlines. I think food should really hog our headlines in the future. I leave you with that note, with that Christmas wish, as it were. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.